Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. We are excited to have you here for our Friday encouragement session. My name is Shira Lotzar, and I am the founder of Purposeful Hire. I am a higher purpose champion. My tagline is, for every hire, there is a higher purpose, and I believe that with my heart and soul. And I'm an association recruiter. I'm a career coach. I love helping people with their branding, with their resumes and LinkedIn and networking, and kind of getting captured and attracted by employers. I'm also the co-founder and volunteer at boomerworks.org. We are a community service program to help professionals age 50 plus to re-career into self-employment, and we have free educational workshops every 2 weeks. So today, our guest experts, we have them as regular. Now, Michelle Wright, unfortunately, is not able to join us. She has some snow and ice challenges in Nashville. Oh, the people in the South, we got to pray for them. We're so glad to have Corliss Jackson here, who's a career coach in federal government resumes, and KiKi L'Italienne, who's all things social media and videos, and Vern Schellenger, who's the master network and relationship builder, and Weech, all things government contracting, and she has her colleague Rick with her today. So for today's session, for those of you who haven't been with us before, we start with a 10-minute breakout session. In that room, you're going to be identifying your group's top question or questions for the main session. You'll also, share any best practices from your job search, any tips, tricks, articles, what have you that you'd like to share with your group. A couple of rules of the road. Make sure that each person has equal time to share. Now, you don't necessarily have to use a stopwatch for that, but try to be sensitive that everybody kind of has equal time. And then make sure to assign a scribe, right, to capture all the questions so that when you come back to the main room, you can post them in the chat. So make sure don't post your questions in the chat in your breakout, post them when you get back into the main room so we can all see them. Then we're going to launch into a group discussion. When we do that, we would ask that you remain muted when you're in the main room. Please just try to post your questions in the chat. And the reason why we do that is because as you see, we have several experts, and we'd like to make room for our experts to be able to share share their advice, all right? At 10:05, we're gonna offer another speed networking breakout session. And in that time, you'll be able to go ahead and share more about your job search with your colleagues, what your career goals are, share any leads with each other. So that's more focused on you and where you're at in your career. So we have a few little links for you here. So make sure to keep in touch with our Power Networking spreadsheet. It's a Google Doc. The recording of today's Q&A and all of our Q&As since we started in August will be here on this link. And then we have a brand new job search resources page on my website. It has articles and books and apps and all kinds of things. And if you have any sort of resources that you'd like to share with us, please email me directly, or you can put your information in the chat box, and I'll make sure to add it to the group. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do our first breakout room. So give me just a minute here while I get you guys all situated. All right, and make sure to hit your blue join button. You'll have 10 minutes to share with each other.
Hey, I was in with Vern.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Let me move you. Thank you. All right. Where are you? Okay, we'll move you over to 5. All right, there you go.
All right.
Hey, Pete, we're in the breakout rooms. I'm going to go ahead and put you in one. And Kelly, did you know that you have a breakout room? Kelly, I'm not sure if you saw your breakout room. And for those who are watching this recording, feel free to fast forward another 8 minutes or so, and we will be back in the main room. Hi, Lena. We're in our breakout rooms right now, so I'm going to go ahead and assign you to a room. We have another 6 or 7 minutes here. Hi, Linda. We're in breakout rooms right now, so I'm going to go ahead and assign you to one. Hi, Diane. We're in breakout rooms right now, so I'm going to go ahead and assign you to a room. Okay, so just hit the blue join button. All right, hopefully everyone had a good little networking session there. Now that you're all back, I'm going to go ahead and pop in the chat box the link for today's recording, as well as the job search resources page. So you've got that here, plus KiKi had already posted the Power Networking spreadsheet. All right, so before we get rolling into your questions, and by the way, while I'm sharing my next little piece, whoever the scribe was for your group, go ahead and start popping your questions into the chat box to kind of get that flowing. I did want to start with a couple of advanced questions. So first of all, somebody asked me, because we have a questionnaire. So somebody asked, he says, regarding the LinkedIn apply button, does that flag the recruiter, or must you also go to the company and apply? So it's a really great question, because I think a lot of people are a bit confused about LinkedIn's job board and what that's all about. So let me kind of explain it in super simple terms. So while LinkedIn is a database of your contacts, it also has a separate feature. It is a job board. It has a job board feature, meaning just like Indeed or Career Builder or any other job board where you'd find a bunch of job postings, that jobs tab up at the top is a separate entity within LinkedIn, meaning that employers can post their jobs for a fee. They pay you, I think it's still $99. I've done it myself as a recruiter. They can post a job just like they post a job on Indeed and just like they post a job anywhere else, meaning when you apply to that job, you are applying to that job. You do not need to go to the employer's company website and apply again. The recruiter's going to capture all of those resumes just like a regular job board. So all you have to do is stay there. Now, that said, like we always talk about in this group, it's always great to get an internal champion. So in addition to applying, just like in addition to applying to any other job board, you really want to try to find somebody who can champion your candidacy internally. Meaning, when you apply through a LinkedIn post, the beauty of that is that you can do a little bit of digging. So oftentimes it'll share with you other kinds of contacts you have in that company. So they're right there in the job posting, it might say to you that you're connected to these other people. Go ahead and tap those people and say, hey, I recently applied to a job on XYZ company. I noticed you either work there or you know somebody who works there, or you used to work there. Could you go ahead and get my resume extra consideration, right? You could message that person in LinkedIn. I prefer you email that person offline so that they actually get the message, and go ahead and try to get yourself, extra notice, right? So that's the answer to that question. And then the second one is a little bit longer, and I'm going to actually read to you. I'm going to keep this confidential in terms of who asked it, but last week, actually, I had an email exchange with somebody on this group. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually read to you the question that was asked of me, and then I'm going to read to you my response. And then I'm going to open it up to the facilitators to see if they have anything else that they'd like to say. And this has to do with salary. And specifically around the Equal Pay Act, and I'll explain what that is in a second. So here was the question. Today I was in receipt of an employment application from a Maryland employer that requests salary history. I've already confirmed and given a nod to the salary range for the position I'm applying for. Do I leave these fields blank? While it shouldn't be by law, will this be a negative for me? So here's what I wrote back. I said it's tricky because the employer likely doesn't know about the new Maryland Equal Pay Act that went into effect in October 2020. And I'll explain that to you guys in a sec. I said, first, I would try to speak with the HR person. Don't do this by email. Actually, try to get a phone call to gently let them know about this new law if they don't already. And then I posted a link, and I'll share that with you guys in a minute, that actually talks about this new Equal Pay Act in Maryland. I said, if you can't reach them or you feel awkward about doing so, you can certainly leave the field blank. That way, if they follow up with you about why you left it blank, you can ask for a call to share the new law with them. Alternatively, since your salary is close enough to their range, you could take the risk of sharing your last salary, hoping that they give you like a 10% bump. But that's unlikely to happen since most employers erroneously think that they can get away with offering lower salaries to folks who are in transition. So I did want to mention this because, as I've shared before, there are new laws coming up, and there have been for the last, I don't know, couple of years. I know I've got some HR people on the call who can keep me honest here, but there has been a whole new set of laws in the country around what's called equal pay, all right? And it has to do with leveling the equity for underrepresented communities, populations, especially women. And so, so there's currently about 20 or so states and counties in the union for which this law applies. Maryland is one of them. I don't think DC and Virginia are there yet, meaning that those employers by law are no longer allowed to ask candidates what their salary history was. And the reason being that people who tend to be underrepresented tend to have lower salaries. So if you ask a person what they were making, the employer is only going to give them like the normal increase, which means they're always going to be sort of lower, right, on their comp level. And so this is getting tricky because a lot of employers don't actually know that the laws are in existence yet, and it keeps changing. So you have to, if you're going to, address this, you'd have to address it very gently. And so, like I said, I will pop in the chat box the link in a minute. So I just wanted to address that for those of you who are in that kind of position. So my facilitators here, anybody want to augment that? Or actually, I know we have a couple of HR people as well, if you want to say anything about that.
I would love to jump all over that, because
Please.
I'm sure that everybody here has found that those are asterisks in red, so they are required. You cannot even finish applying unless you answer that question. So this is what I've done 100% of the time. I have actually looked at the company, found the recruiters or the HR people, and said, I have hit a glitch in applying online for your job. You know, here, and I attach my resume. Here's my resume and my cover letter. Please let me know next steps. And somebody's going to get back with you because they want to know what's the glitch. And then you tell them the glitch is that it's requiring salary history, which I'm not sure you're aware of, but in 25 states and the District of Columbia.
Oh, now DC too.
Yeah, it's no longer legal to ask that. So since you don't know if someone's applying to your job and they're sitting in California, because it doesn't matter if they live there, if they're sitting in California, it's illegal to ask that question. And actually at the end of the day, and then you explain why. It's the reason why these became laws was because of the pay disparity, you know, primarily for women and minorities. So I'm sure that you all have a D&I plan, especially after 2020. And I just wanted to make sure that I was serving you by bringing this to your attention.
Thank you, Joe. And you've been hot in the trenches recently, so thank you for sharing with us what you yourself did. It's terrific. Thank you.
Oh, and just to let you know too, there's a Chrome extension you can get called Hiretual, Hiretual. It allows you to find out up to 3 people's contact information when you're not connected per day. So all you have to really do is just do one person, and if you can get their actual work email, then you'll see how it is. Like I'm joe.weech at something, I'm jweech at something, I'm weechj at something. So you'll actually be able to see how they format that, and then you can pretty much figure out everybody else's emails from there.
Thank you, Joe. Fantastic. All right, KiKi, you are our chat monitor. Do you want to go ahead and start us out with the chat box?
Absolutely. So I'm looking over here, and I have to say people have been doing a fantastic job tracking down what it was that they talked about in their groups. The first question that I have, and let's see, there were 2 things from our group, Linda says, but the 2 things were right there. Then I have Joe's question, how to answer interview questions about a mistake you made.
That's a great one. That's a good one. I could answer it, but I think I'm going to open it up to my facilitators here. So Vern, how about you? Do you want to, because I know you've been in an HR role as well for a very long time. Do you want to go ahead and tackle that one? You're on mute. You're on mute, Vern.
Obviously, you should be prepared for that question. That is a common question that interviewers can't ask. So you should go in thinking about, if they ask me about a mistake or a problem or a difficult situation I handled, be prepared, answer it honestly, and make sure you include in your answer, what did you learn from this? And how based on what you've learned, if you can give an example of how I made this mistake, here's what I learned, and the next time this situation came up, this is how I handled it.
It's great, Vern. And the reason why they're doing that, in part, is they're looking for humility. And this is one of the challenges in job search, right? It's almost like a contradiction. On the one hand, you're supposed to brag a little bit about yourself, right? You're supposed to share your accomplishments and be all confident. At the same time, you have to be humble, and you have to show that you're a continuous learner, and you're going to be vulnerable a little bit. So it's always that delicate balance.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vern. All right, KiKi, next question.
All right, the next question is, how do you answer the question, tell me about your leadership style?
That's a great one as well. So, you know what, Corliss, I'm actually going to toss this to you, and the reason is that so Corliss is our federal government expert here, and I know that in the federal government in particular, there's a real strong emphasis on sort of behavioral skills and soft skills and so forth. So, Corliss, do you want to go ahead and tackle that one? Corliss, are you with us? I hope you're still with us. Corliss? Oh, you're on mute. Or you're frozen. Oh no. Oh, there you are. Corliss?
Uh-oh.
Corliss. Corliss, can you hear us? You're on mute. Corliss, you're on mute.
Oh no.
There you are. Okay.
Frozen like the pipes in Texas.
Corliss?
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm sorry, I missed the question. I have.
Oh, could you repeat the question, KiKi?
All right. So the question is, how do you respond to the question about sharing your leadership style? I'm scrolling up to find it. And it has to do, let me make sure I got that phrased properly. Yeah. How do you answer the question? Tell me about your leadership style.
In the federal, and we're talking about in the federal sector.
Well, I mentioned you just because I know in the federal sector there's a lot of emphasis on that kind of thing, so I figured you'd be a good person to answer it just in general.
So what we do in the federal sector is we answer in stories, right? So we use the CCAR model or the STAR model, which is the context, challenge, action, result. So if they're asking anything, really any question that you get asked, I always say, whether it's leadership or something else, answer in that using that STAR formula. Right? So what was the situation? What were you responsible for or tasked to do? What was the action that you engaged in? What activities you engaged in to solve the problem? And then what was the result? And I would do that for leadership, definitely. So give an example of one of your leadership, an opportunity where you had to take the lead on something and give it all you got in terms of the STAR formula.
Yeah. Thank you, Corliss. Yeah, and in the private sector as well, right? I'm sure most of you know that formula, situation, action, result, all of that is appropriate. And I would say specifically related to leadership, if you know that question is likely to come up, go ahead and do some research on your leadership style. And what I mean by that is there are so many articles and books and, you know, thought leadership out there around leadership. I mean, there's just a whole cottage industry around that. Find out what kind of leader you are. Some leadership styles actually have names like servant leadership and so forth. And so you want to figure out what really fits your style and what does that look like? You know, how do you lead? How do you manage? Leading and managing are two different things. You know, how do you influence without authority? All of those things. So really go ahead and do some research around leadership, figure out what's right for you, and then you can come up with the right STAR stories that fits the kind of leader that you are. So good. Thanks, Keith.
That, Shira, real quickly. I always tell my clients to come up with 10 or 12 STAR stories before you even do anything, before you write a resume, before you engage in an interview, before you network, because it gives you a very clear way to articulate what you bring to the table and the value that you are embracing to provide to that other organization, that new organization or that new position. And that's the best way to do it.
It's such a great tip, Corliss, and it's multi-purpose, right? It is for your resume, like you said, it's for your interview, for your networking. I know Vern talks about that a lot, right? When you have your opening pitch, you want to teach somebody about what you do and the value that you provide. It boosts your confidence. I mean, there's just so many reasons to do it, so it's a good thing to do. Okay, KiKi, next question.
Sorry.
This one is a really great question about platforms like Upwork or Freelancer. So while people are looking for other jobs, this question came actually from the group that I was in. And the question was, Upwork and Freelancer for transitional work, is it beneficial? Is it good? How about the time to invest in something like that in marketing yourself on Upwork or Freelancer versus doing something else so that you can acquire your next
it's a great question, and thank you for that. It's actually something that I talk about it in BoomerWorks, because in BoomerWorks we're all about self-employment and Upwork. So the platforms that KiKi's talking about are generically called on-demand websites. There's a ton of them. I mean, yes, Upwork and Freelancer and Fiverr and TaskRabbit, and I mean, you just can go on and on and on. Even LinkedIn has one. Here's the thing about that. On the one hand, you can say, oh, well, I can earn a little bit of extra money, right? Well, I'm doing my search. The challenge, there's two challenges, main ones. Number one, those platforms are international platforms. You are literally, in every respect, competing with people all around the world. Number one, so the competition is very stiff. Number two, the people who are not in the United States of America oftentimes are charging rates that are rock bottom because our dollar goes a long way over there. Okay, so the competition is it just kind of ratchets up. On top of which, in order to sort of get noticed by people who are looking for so not employers, but people could be employers, but people who are looking for the help. What they'll do is, and I've done it myself. I've gone to Fiverr. In fact, for videos like this, sometimes I got a guy in Nigeria through Fiverr who I use, and he he'll slice my videos, right? But he doesn't charge a lot. $5, $10, $15, right? Somebody in this country wouldn't be able to do. So I'm only backstoring that because in theory, it's a really neat concept, but you really have to invest time in it to get your profile up, because you want to get ratings from your clients, and you have to have enough of those ratings to get to the top of the page, so that if somebody like me is looking for somebody like you, you're going to come up with the 5 stars and all of that. So it does take a lot of intentionality. If you are really looking for as some might say, the side hustle, I'd actually go to your network. I would just let your friends, colleagues, family members, neighbors know that you're open to doing some work on the side, and let them know the kind of skills that you have, and just see if you can cobble together work that's kind of within your community. It's going to be a lot easier, a lot less competition, a lot less hassle, frankly, than going to on demand. You can go on demand. I just wanted to let you know that's a little tricky. All right, KiKi.
All right. So this person's asking for inspiration for the newly unemployed. This can be an emotional trip in figuring out what you're doing when you leave your job and you're looking for something else. So this person's looking for inspiration for the newly unemployed and how to address gaps in work and the entire job seeking effort at this point in life and career. That's a big question. That's a big question.
That's a big question. Vern, I feel like I want to kick that to you. You want to tackle that?
Wow. That is a big question.
Well, how long do you have? Right?
Break it down. Yeah.
I actually have a document that I use with clients, and it says, here are the 10 questions you need to answer to connect to have an effective job search. The first one, though, is about the mental. Are you mentally prepared for the job search? Because it is emotional. It is an emotional roller coaster. So, a lot of the things that you have to do is first of all, make sure that you've got a good support group, and you've got people encouraging you, and people you can go to for advice and counsel and support throughout the entire job search. Take care of yourself, get enough sleep, eat right, exercise. Take some time out of the job search. Don't pressure yourself to try to work 168 hours a week. You can't. You do have to work at the job search, but take some time out and do some things that are relaxing. And again, it is, like I said, it is such a mental challenge. And of course, the other thing I would say, work on building your network, reach out to people, talk to people, get advice. Those conversations can be uplifting if you have a conversation with somebody and they're able to say, hey, here's something, and it really helps you in your job search, and you'll feel good about that. And so do that more often. And eventually you're going to get somebody that says, hey, I think there's a job opening at ABC company that I think you might be a good fit for.
There are so, we can go on and on and on. We could take the next 2 hours and just unpack all of that, Vern. That was just great. I'll just throw one more pebble in the pond. And that is that you really want to try to find the balance between your needs and the employer's needs, right? It is absolutely a delicate dance. And the reason is that each side is coming at it from a different perspective. So you really need to get very clear on what you want to do, your skill set, your purpose, your passion, who you serve, how you serve, all of that. And you want to make sure that you're always being respectful of where the employer is coming from, and they've got very specific and unique needs. So trying to do that matchup is always a bit of a dance, right? But you've got to make sure that you are attractive. Even though you have some goals, you want to make sure that you are attractive to that new employer. And one of the many, many tips, and you'll hear us say this all the time, is customize your resume, customize your interviewing. Customize your networking. Everything you do needs to be tailored to the needs of that employer. Again, you've got your needs, they've got their needs. Both sides are equally important. No, nobody's above each other. It's the same, coming at it equally. But you've got to make sure that you are tailoring your needs and your skill set and your background to what the employer needs as well. So I'll press pause there. Again, we could go on for lots and lots of time, but hopefully whoever asked the question will continue to come every week and get some more advice. All right, and we're not doing hand raises right now. We're going to just make sure that we do everything in the chat box, if that's okay, just because we have very limited time. Okay, so KiKi, you want to go ahead and share the next question?
All right, so this question has to do with kind of with what we were talking about a little bit before with the salary issues. And I actually saw this come up in another discussion recently too. And it has to do with the time spent on pursuing a job without knowing what the salary is. Now, this person's question is, what is some advice on how to tactfully address the required salary information so that if you bring it up the first contact with HR, it isn't perceived as hostile? So, you know, how soon can you bring up that question? I know many of us can identify with this issue where it's like, I don't want to be the first one to bring it up, but I also don't want to spend too many cycles. Yeah, when it's not the right match.
Very tricky. Right. Yeah, it's a very normal question, common challenge. Again, so first of all, jumping off of Joe's, very astute description of the whole Equal Pay Act. Remember, all that's kind of changing now. Okay, so let me just here's a sneak peek of coming attractions in that world, which I wouldn't have been able to say 5 years ago, and that is that whole salary conversation is changing. So as employers start to get wind of the fact that there is this equal pay thing, and they stop asking about salary history, what's now starting to make a bit of a shift, and I myself am doing this as a recruiter because it is best practice, is what's starting to happen is not only are employers refraining from asking about salary history, what they're also starting to do is they're starting to provide the actual salary, okay? Either a range or a target number. I prefer the target number, but either way, it's slow. It's like molasses, but it's starting to happen because they realize that if they don't ask you what you're looking for and they don't provide salary, then everybody's wasting their time, right? So it is starting to happen, but it's not everywhere yet. And so, in terms of addressing it delicately, first of all, try to do your homework in advance. There are tools out there to give you a general idea of maybe what the comp might be. One of the best resources that I know of, and Joe, I know you're a little Miss App girl, so maybe you can help me. I've always liked Glassdoor. Now, I'm not saying it's a perfect science at all, but if you type the name of the title and the company into Glassdoor, there's a little salary button there, and it'll give you what they think is the general possible range for that, for that role. Of course, in small companies, they may not know. But the point is, do your research, right? Try to figure out what it probably is, set by sector, in the size of the organization, the title. There's a lot of factors. The point is, do your homework. Then, if you still are like, big old question mark, if at the end of the first level interview, if the employer has not yet brought it up, you can say this. And now mind you, this is going a little bit counter to that Equal Pay Act, but you can do the following, right? You can say, look, Mr. Miss Employer, thank you for, this has been a great interview. I want to make sure that you all are making a good hiring decision in considering my candidacy. Now, again, I'm going to give you one option here. What I'd like to do is offer to you what I'm looking for just to help you make a good decision. So I am in the, I'm looking for a target compensation of X, and I just want to make sure that that's within your range. So that to me is a delicate way of doing it. You're offering it first. You're not asking them. You're not forcing them to tell you, but you're saying, and for those of you who are in the DC area, you might remember an old commercial, the Sims commercial, an educated consumer is our best customer. It's that kind of thing. You're educating the employer. I'm not saying that it's the perfect way to do it, but it is a way to do it that would be, put them less on the spot. Okay. Joe, did you have any kind of comments on that? Because I know there's different ways that we can handle this.
I also want to take it further for the people who ask you, where do you need to be or what range, are you looking for? So then I take them down the rabbit hole of, well, it depends on total compensation. What is the PTO? What is, the co-share of the insurance premiums? How much is the 401k? Is it vested immediately? And once I get them through that, then I put the question back. Okay, so what range are they targeting, this particular position for? And I've never had a recruiter not tell me.
Great. That's great. Yeah, that's a good backdoor way to get them to start talking about compensation. Terrific. Thank you, Joe. All right, KiKi, next question.
All right, this person, I'm bringing this question up to the front to address because they have a panel interview next week, and the first 15 minutes will be with the HR director. This person had a short phone screen with that HR director. What should they expect from the HR director? What should they expect before the panel interview?
That's a great question. I'll tackle this one super fast, and then I'll bounce it to Vern. Look, HR in general, and I say HR, it could be the HR director, it could be the recruiter, but anybody who's sort of in the HR space, they're looking to check a few boxes. Okay, they're what I call the have you, can you. Okay, like do you meet the basic specs? Number one, in terms of skill set. They also might be asking a little bit about culture fit, just to get a sense as to whether you're going to fit into their culture. And they might also ask about compensation. HR is kind of there to be the first line of defense to mitigate the risk of that employer. That's their job, right? We are the gatekeepers. Now, the fact that they're doing HR first and they've already scheduled a panel, that says something to me that they're interested enough in your candidacy to take the time, because normally HR would do the first vet, then make the decision whether to bring you back. The fact that they're doing it all together says to me that HR is just going to do check, 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 little culture, maybe comp, maybe some skills, just to kind of get to know you. And then the real interview is going to be with the panel. Vern, did you want to add anything to that?
One thing I would add to that, in your communication with HR, I would certainly ask, who will I be interviewing with? Can you tell me, their titles and the names of the people I'll be interviewing with? And I would, most companies I think would provide that information, maybe not. But certainly if you can get that, then you can go to LinkedIn and look on their profile and kind of get a sense of who you're interviewing with. And during the panel interview, just make sure you're making eye contact with all three or all four of the people as you're answering questions.
Terrific. Thank you, Vern. Okay, KiKi, next question.
Is it okay to ask the recruiter for intel about the company?
Yes. Oh, yes. Do, please. Absolutely. Go for it. Yeah. In fact, they like it when you ask those kinds of questions. And it depends, of course, what you mean by intel, right? But in terms of culture, in terms of where the company's projections are, in terms of their the mission and goals and all of this, yeah, it's actually the recruiter's job to know kind of a little more ins and outs of where the organization is going. Now, they may not know as deeply about that particular department, but they should be able to sell the organization to you pretty well. So anything that has to do with the company status, their future, their culture, the people, any of that, oh yeah, please. That's as simple answer as I can give you. And do your homework, of course, in advance. So anything you find out about the company, feel free to ask the recruiter, say, I was noticing this or research that, and can you tell me more about that? Shows that you did your homework, and that's actually pretty impressive to a recruiter.
Awesome. So, okay, the next question, and I have to point out, somebody's given some great information. Actually, Jamie has been doing, like, I don't know, can we give out stars? I don't know. Jamie is over here in the chat comments, just sharing resources and sharing information. The question is, best way or ways to discover one's natural talents and passions and to align those with one's job search. So this is going deep.
So that's actually right here in my wheelhouse, and I'm going to share with you guys a quick exercise. In fact, let's see, I don't know if I have it up here right now, but I'll do it verbally since we don't have a lot of time. So there's an exercise that I use with all of my career coaching clients. I actually use it as a recruiter as well, and I call the exercise Passiontivity. And Passiontivity, the tagline is where passion and productivity meet. This is a fantastic 4-box exercise to help you figure out exactly that, where your purpose, your passion, your skills.
That's how we used to park at the mall all the time.
Scott, can you go ahead? Okay, I'm going to mute him. Okay, this is a great way to kind of figure out where everything aligns. So here it is. Here are the 4 boxes. Ready? Okay, so box number 1, high skill, high motivation. High skill, high motivation is what I would call high engagement. So these are skills that you have that you feel that you're a rock star at, and you absolutely love to do this work. You give discretionary effort. Wild horses can't drag you away. If you were independently wealthy, you'd still do this work, okay? This is absolutely where your skills and your passions align, and frankly, where you should probably be targeting your job search. So the skills that kind of fall into that box are the ones that are gonna light you up and where you're gonna have the most passion, where you'll be able to share probably the best stories, and also, frankly, where you might even be able to do some career shifting. Because if there are some skills in that box where there's a particular skill in there that you love doing so much, you could actually repurpose that skill and turn it into a profession. It's what I call the difference between an ing and an The ing is the skill, the is the profession. Writing versus writer, event planning, event planner. So you might have had a bunch of ing skills in that high skill, high motivation box. And then maybe there's one or two that you're like, I love doing that. You could repurpose and start to shift your career in that new direction by highlighting the accomplishments that you've had in the past related to those skills. Once I've told people on this group before that once I helped in my coaching work, I helped an attorney, a recovering attorney, who didn't want to be an attorney anymore, and he decided he wanted to be a writer. And so I found all the writing accomplishments from his legal work. We recrafted his resume just to highlight those skills, redid his LinkedIn profile just to highlight his writing, passion, and style, and he ended up getting a job as a journalist for a legal trade publication, okay? So it is possible, but we had to fixate on high skill, high motivation. The second box is high skill, low motivation, which is stopgap work, basically work you tolerate. You're good at it, don't have a lot of desire for it. It's the kind of thing that you just don't want to have as very much in your work. You'll do it, but it's really not where you should be focusing your career path. The third box is high motivation, low skill, and that's professional development. And there are actually two parts to that box: want to and need to. So it's all things that you need to, that you could, do better at. But the want to is the get to. It's the cheerleader stuff. It's like, wow, that would be so cool if I could get to learn this skill. The need to is the have to. The shuffle your feet on the ground. Yeah, I know I should be better at this. So my classic example for that would be like a marketing professional who might say, yeah, I really want to be better at social media strategy, but I know a lot of marketing people aren't very good at numbers. So they might say, I need to be better managing budgets. All right, so that's the difference. And then the last box is low skill, low motivation, which is disengagement, or active disengagement, things you're not good at, have no desire to be, things that drain you, and you really want to stay away from those things in your search. So that's my 3-minute fire hose on passiontivity. Hopefully that's helpful. Please go back to this recording and listen to it again. So KiKi, we've got a couple more minutes here.
All right. So this person's asking, what expectations should I expect when working with a recruiter regarding follow-up?
Right. So regarding follow-up, that's a pretty big question. So here's what I would generally suggest with that. Look, recruiters are super busy. And by the way, if their title is recruiter, that means that all they do is recruit, not HR, okay? Which means they could have literally 30 to 50 open positions, what they call open recs on their desk. Super, super busy. I hate to say the whole don't call us, we'll call you kind of thing, but unfortunately, that's kind of the way that it works. You certainly can follow up. Just manage your expectations around their response to you. Okay. Now, if the farther you are along the process, in other words, the more you've got an indication from them that you are a top candidate, the more engaged they're going to be with you in the process, right? If it's really early on and you've just submitted your resume, or maybe you've had a phone screen, you're less likely to hear back, from them directly. The farther you are, the more likely it is they're going to really want to engage you. I'm not trying to judge it any which way. I'm just trying to say this is the reality, is they are super busy people. If you ask them at the end of an interview, what's the next steps? When can I expect to hear back from you? And they say, whatever it is, a week, 2. You haven't heard back in that time. Wait another little bit, days, maybe even a week, one little ping. Hey, wanted to follow up, re-express my interest, see if you have any updates. But here's the thing, and Corliss, I think you said it very, very well once. Don't let your anxiety rule the day. Okay, just because you're curious about what the status is, don't let your anxiety kind of put pressure on them. Because at the end of the day, here's the deal: if they want you, they will track you down. They will send a carrier pigeon to your home, okay, to come find you if they want you. So just because you're curious and you're waiting by the phone doesn't mean that, that's top priority for them. So again, they will find you if you're a candidate of interest. All right, we are actually at our 10:06 actually, to get into our next breakout room. For any questions that are left over in the chat, I'll do my best to answer them. However, if you have a question in the chat, I may not have your email address. So please, you can chat me privately or to the group, put your email address in there if you have a question that's in the chat. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another round. Oh, before we do breakouts, I apologize. I have one more thing to show you guys just to round us out here. Okay, so if you would like to stay in touch with us, here's our contact information. I'm gonna stay in here for 5 seconds if you'd like to take a screenshot or a picture. Okay. And there are other free job support groups here, at least in the DC area. Now, of course, a lot of people are joining us from all over the country, and then one day I'll probably get a whole bunch of other groups, but of course, everyone's on Zoom. These are some great resources for you all to check out. Also wanted to let you know that I now have a bi-weekly newsletter if you are interested in being on my newsletter. So it's quick, to the point, and hopefully inspirational. Please email me and let me know that you'd like to be on that. And and by the way, there are a lot of you on this call, I think, that are already on my subscription list, but it might be going into your spam, because I've had people write me offline, and especially if you have a Gmail, for some reason, a lot of these kinds of emails get caught up in spam. So go ahead and check that as well. So I always like to wrap up with an inspirational quote from the Bible, and this one is, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you," and that's from Deuteronomy. And along those lines, for the last couple of weeks, we have a new feature for those who would like to stay on after this session. I will lead you all in a prayer session. Okay, so for those who are interested, I'm happy to invite you to that. And we're going to go ahead and do speed networking now. So again, you're going to have 10 minutes to introduce yourself to your colleagues, what your aspiring field is, what I call your lane, the industry or sector that you might happen to be a part of, what a great connection is for you. Make sure to share with each other, any connections and any leads. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back into breakouts. And here we go.
One thing I should suggest is for people to volunteer and help out while they're job search, because you're helping other people, you don't have time to go through all your stuff in life. So just a thought.
Sure. Did you see your room? Linda, you have a breakout room if you'd like to join. And for those who are watching this video afterwards, we have another 8 minutes or so feel free to fast forward until the end. All right, hopefully that was a good networking session for everyone. So to kind of wrap things up, I'm going to ask our facilitators who were leading their rooms if they want to share. KiKi, Vern, Joe, Rick, want to share any little highlights from your meetings?
I'll just share really quickly that, you know, I had an excellent room. I didn't get to hear from one of the people, but we didn't make it that far. But I think the highlights were really just everyone was sharing what they were looking for and piling on the love for Jamie, who I had the good fortune to be in the room with, because she was sharing these resources over in the chat. So if you haven't checked out Jamie's comments over in the chat, go look at the books that she recommended, share her advice. The final question that got brought up was, Jamie, are you doing anything in particular? She has like a 30% success rate in getting to that first interview. Are you doing anything in particular that's helping you in your interviews? And she was just saying customizing what she's sending, and that whenever she's applying in an area for a job in which she has that experience and she knows what she's talking about, that she shamelessly asks for people who are connected with her to go ahead and you know, be that advocate for her. So yeah, I think I summed it up all right. Jamie, what do you think?
Props to Jamie.
Yeah.
Thank you. And hopefully, Jamie, you share, if you haven't already, put your Riveter article in the chat box so people can see that as well. Okay, good. Thanks. Anyone else? Vern, Rick, Joe?
Noreen had a great tip to share. So if you're in IT, you know, any type of IT or whatever, she was sharing about Team Blind. It's a group where people all talk about, well, if you're going for a role here, then you should be asking for these 3 things or whatever. So people are just sharing intel about companies that you may be interviewing for and the types of things that you can ask for. I thought that was really great of her to share.
Can somebody put that in the chat for us? I'm happy to put it on my website as well, on the resource page.
Noreen, do you want to put that in there for us?
It actually wasn't Noreen who did it. It was someone else.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll take the credit though.
Oh, that's right. Okay, Tammy, are you still on? I believe
she just posted it. That's great.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Tammy. Sorry about that.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right. Any other tips from our groups, Vern?
Share this, Rick. I just want to reiterate how important we've talked about it, customizing your resume, because as a recruiter, I am looking at the fit that someone has for a specific job. So most people send generic resumes, and it's more work for me because I have to dig down to see how they fit a position.
Right.
And when we send a candidate that we think is good over to a client, we customize the resume specifically to the requirements. So if you do that ahead of time, you'll get looked at a lot quicker and a lot more often. And you'll get to that next step where you can then have that one-on-one conversation. So it's just so critical.
It really is.
And I know that from my own past experience looking for work in my 50s, young 50s. So it's really important.
It just is. Yeah. And I'm doing an executive search right now. And because I know how important it is, and because, you know, job seekers just don't typically know to do that, I actually specifically said in the application section, please send, and I like literally underlined it, a customized, tailored resume, cover letter, all that. And you'd be surprised how many people didn't do it. I mean, it was highlighted. Now, those who did do it, they went whoosh, right to the top of the pile.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, they read it, they did it, they took the time. And of course it helped with our interview. I mean, all the dominoes started lining up once they took that first step to take the time to do the customization. So, okay, great. All right, so I think we're good to go. So wish everyone a blessed day. Again, if anyone wants to stay on the line for the prayer call, great. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Wear your mask and wash your hands.
Wear your mask and wash your hands.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, so I guess we're all staying around for the prayer call. Fantastic. This little group keeps growing, which is terrific. All right, so what I'd like to do is kind of we don't have to go around to everyone, but I really would like to hear your prayer requests. I know we got to pray for Texas for sure. That's absolutely sure. If you guys have personal requests, whether it's about your job search, your family, what have you, if you could just, you know, let us know what you would like us to pray about.
This is